How's it going, everyone? This is Derek Lamoureux, and this is Phong Tram.
Hey guys, happy to be here.
This video, we're going to talk about breaking down a greenhouse commercial that Phong and I shot. I directed this one, he DP'd it, and we kind of creatively combined our ideas with our creative director, Felipe, and we just came up with a very unique way to tell the story of this greenhouse. The client had a goal of sharing their story, using it as promotion, using it as recruitment. So we needed to kind of put all of those things into, like a 30-second spot. The challenges that we had on, just the day were, when we had done the location scout, we knew that the facility was huge. We also knew that there wasn't a ton of control because we needed to move pretty quickly. So Phong and I had a lot of conversations about, let's make it look as good as we can, but getting in enough shots to make our day, because this was only a one-day commercial. That started with picking gimbals and camera movement, and Phong and I collaborated a lot on the day of to just make the shots as unique as possible. So we're gonna run you through all of that from start to finish. Phong, walk me through this Anamorphic setup, because you and I had been playing around with Anamorphic, specifically vertical anamorphic, for a lot of shoots when we shot this project, and I love it.
It has a very unique look. So what we had here for this shoot was that we had two Sony FX6s, and we shot on the Atlas Orion lenses. So what we meant in terms of vertical anamorphic is that we're gonna rig the camera vertically, but the lens still gonna be mounted the correct orientation. So it's just that now, instead of squeezing the sensor horizontally, you're gonna squeezing it vertically. Now, if we squeeze it vertically, we're gonna have an image somewhat of like 17 by 18 aspect ratio, which is close to 1:1, and that opened up a lot of possibilities in terms of like deliverables and then outputs for the client's needs.
Yeah, we needed, we wanted something that not only looked awesome, but we could deliver for YouTube, we could deliver for Instagram. And this is becoming a more popular thing in the agency world, is you have all these different platforms, and it just looks so fucking cool. Like, as a director, you're like, how can I make stuff look cooler? Well, I mean, lenses and camera, they are part of that package. So, when Phong and I were playing around with this and building it, I was like, this is definitely the look we want for the greenhouse. The greenhouse is vertical, right? Traditional anamorphic is very focused on that horizon and that horizontal plane, whereas the greenhouse is very vertical. So we wanted to be able to show off that beautiful height that they have in that greenhouse, and a lot of the shots were designed to show off the floor to the bottom of the plants, which is 15, 20 feet. And so when we were coming up with this plan, we were like, let's shoot it vertically anamorphic. And if you haven't, go check out my video on how to shoot vertically anamorphic. It'll help you understand what this means and how to shoot it and all of the technical details behind it. But this project turned out great in vertically anamorphic. On the day of, we made the decision that laying down dolly track and pushing the gimbal manually through these rows just didn't look that great. And so the client actually was like, do you want one of our little scissor lifts? And we were like, I'm sure, yeah, we'll take it. And then Phong went on there with the gimbal and was holding the gimbal on the scissor lift. I was behind him, holding him on like this, and we were like, woo, we're cowboys in this greenhouse. But the Ronin is really heavy with the Orions, so it wasn't something that we could just sustain for 8 hours.
Yeah.
This
Definitely
guy's strong,
not.
but 8 hours.
I work out maybe once a month, but.
So then you were like, well, why don't we get Naz to rig it up? And then Naz was like, hey, let's rig this gimbal to the scissor lift. And then I remember trying to crouch underneath the lift for both of us to get in. Oh man,
yeah.
It was.
But that ended up working out really well, I think, because now having the gimbal mounted onto the scissor lift, you have a very, very stable base for the gimbal. Yeah. So even with the lift coming in and out, up and down, I think the gimbal was doing a great job, in terms of help stabilizing the camera, and with that we were able to come up with a lot of cool shots.
Oh, I mean, we when we got going, I mean, Phong was up in the control and the roll. We were playing around with like all the rolls and the pans and the tilts. So we were playing around with like the up, down, forwards, back, and Phong was playing around with the camera settings, and then Laura was like pulling focus. It was a lot of movement at once, and I felt bad for our editor because, I mean, probably half the takes were like just totally unusable. But we figured it out. We got into a routine.
Yep.
And I mean, when you look at the edit, I mean, like even just like this shot here, the opening shot, you're like pushing through the leaves onto this guy, and then you see like in a couple seconds later, you know, we're going like up and rolling on another guy, and then we're going down, and they're coming towards us, and they're going down, and we're going up, and you don't get that unless you have like a techno crane or, you know, some type of big equipment to be able to do that. You can see in this shot here, we're like pushing into him. So like we're physically moving on our little scissor lift. They're moving towards us, and then Phom's moving the camera, and then I'm moving up as they move down. So there was a lot of like me calling out, like go up, go down, and trying to get them to do that. And then like Phong telling me like, hey, go faster, slower, because all of those things were like just variables. But I think the secret to a lot of these shots is you picking the camera angle that looked the best when we couldn't control the light. Because when we were on that lift, like we're not bringing lighting in. It's a 40-foot run that we're doing.
So, you know, walking into the shoot knowing that we're gonna have limited resources and we're gonna be running and gunning a lot, I picked a very, you know, nimble but powerful light packages. So we had a Dyno 650 with a roller stand, and, you know, a couple of others like smaller lights for like eye lights and hair lights, and a couple of like 4x4 floppies just to shape the image. And you know, the people that you see here in the clips, they are not actors. You know, they are like the real workers of the greenhouse. So, you know, we have to work around the schedule, and we have to like pick our angle and, you know, like shoot the shots like around the working area. So, you know, having something like that nimble but also powerful, I think, you know, contributed a big part in terms of shaping the image.
I challenged Phong on the day to give me like 5 different portrait shots that looked very unique. So I was like, okay, just go scout the building, find like 5 locations that you could set up a portrait shot, but I don't want each of them to take longer than like 5 to 10 minutes. Not an easy task. But what my point was I was like, I want you to be able to just duplicate the setup. So walk them through your setup for these portrait shots, because they all are the same.
What it was that I used the dyno with a softbox, you know, and it was on a roller stand, and I set it, you know, somewhat like very close to the subject to make it like very soft and you know, nicely spread it out. You know, in order to like shape the image, I had to like ND the camera down at least 2 to 3 stops, you know, just to get like the nice contrast, the nice shadows, and, you know, like without having a blown out image. ND out the camera, place the light, and then you know, set up a couple like hair lights or like flags, 4x4 floppies on the other side, and you know, there you have it.
So I'm always happy when a DP can come up with a solution that's fast, easy, and didn't break the bank when we needed to rent the stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we rigged the Hydra arm to this gator, and we got some really unique shots that way. And then we used that for a couple other like crane shots because it was already set up. We had plans to use it more, but like honestly, in the 8 hours we had, I think it would have been super tough. Okay. So one of the other things that we wanted to do was really make the focal lengths an apparent jump. So I'm a big fan of like really wide shots, which you get with Anamorphic. Everything kind of looks 2 times bigger. But then I really like the compression of a smaller, tighter lens. So Phong, you know, made some lens choices, and on the day of was making a lot of choices with his AC, deciding on what lens they want. So Phong, maybe just run them through that.
You know, shooting in a greenhouse, there's a lot of texture around them, especially, you know, like these shots, like in these aisles, that like the leaves and, you know, like on that colors, you know, like gonna pop out, and the texture gonna pop out. So I wanted to use somewhat of a wide, like medium lens just to showcase that. And then for some of the shots, like we jump into using a tighter lens. And
I think it was something like an 80 mil or whatever, but yeah, even in some of these like greenhousey aisle shots, you decided that you're like, let's see what this looks like. We've shown the wide. You're like, let's put on the 80 mil and let's see what the same shot looks like, which was really interesting actually.
Exactly, and because like we had the opportunity to use the Scissor lift to like come up with like those dynamic shots. So I think like having a tight lens plus like the dynamic movement of the camera, I think like that helps a lot in terms of like making the video more interesting.
You really feel the movement a lot more when you're on that tighter lens. So like having that dolly crane move combined with a tighter lens, I think like that was a great decision. I think added a lot.
I think like the key is that like take a good half an hour, or 20 minutes, like walk around, scope out a location, like find some like interesting backgrounds. I would say for this commercial here, we picked a lot of like angles that has like a lot of leading lines. Like sometimes like when you pick out a good composition for your frame, I think like that's 50% of the job.
Yeah.
And then like and you place the person there, and then you find the angle that that the sun is not like blasting directly on your subject, and then like my methodology is that like you have to shoot the opposite side of the sun, so that way you can have like a nice shapy looking image, and just go from there.
Yeah, I mean, if you can shoot in a greenhouse, it's like a cinematographer's dream. I'll tell you that. That frosted highlight over makes every shot look.
Yeah.
I would say other than that, cinematography-wise aside, this project was really interesting because, we wanted it to look awesome. We did the vertical anamorphic. We had a time crunch. We were working with non-actors. But sometimes non-actors are my favorite because they're just like down to do whatever and have fun. And you get a lot of different people. In this video you can see we have a lot of different people in the video, which make the video just seem that much more interesting.
And they look authentic.
Yeah, they look authentic. Yeah, they actually knew what they were doing. We didn't. I had a ton of fun on this project. I think this project is one of the ones where you say, hey, let's just try something. Let's rig a camera to a scissor lift and just go for it. And if you don't do that, you're never gonna come up with what we came up with, which is just a little bit of luck, but just a lot of like, hey, ingenuity and creativity. And that's what I encourage people to do all the time. And I think your projects will look way better if you can just make them cooler. Thanks for coming, buddy. Appreciate
thanks for having
it.
me. Yeah, it's been fun.
I hope you enjoyed this breakdown, and if you want to see more breakdowns, just tap that subscribe button for more videos.